Old school RuneScape for many is considered to be one of the greatest MMOs of all time, and I've started a quest to see just why that is. Having primarily played World of Warcraft for the past 2 decades, I have the privilege to be able to play RuneScape from a completely blind perspective, and I'm challenging myself by attempting to complete every quest in the game in Iron Man mode without the use of guides. Today, I offer you a glimpse in the experience of a World of Warcraft transplant's first adventure in the world of RuneScape. As Pazops Quidjikafo. You know what? As Pazops Quidjikafo. Fuck this. Oh, good. They've added another quest since I've started, so I'm actually making negative progress now. So before we begin today's episode, we have a bit of a history lesson. I once made a comment that this game looks like it was made for the N64. Just look at those polygons. It's that awkward period when games were first transitioning from 2D to 3D. Yeah, lose the squares. It's the era of the triangle. Any fellow dinosaurs out there will remember just how exciting of a time this was, watching their favorite franchises making the leap. What would our favorite characters look like? How would our favorite games play in a 3D space? How accurately could breast physics be simulated? It was the Pandora's box of the late 90s and early 2000s, and it ushered in a new era. The characters were actually starting to represent what they were supposed to look like, and the gap between concept art and in-game models had started to lessen, and breast physics could be accurately simulated. There's always this ongoing debate if video games are art or not, and today it's unquestionable. There's stories and worlds out there that have so much depth and nuance that they put even the most iconic movies and series to shame, such as Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. So the reason why I'm talking about all of this is that what you're looking at right now wasn't even the original form of this game, but rather this. Yeah, N64. Try NES. This was the very first form of RuneScape, launched in 1998 under the name Devious Mud, which would only be played by about 20 people, just barely eclipsing the current population of the Season of Discovery. This would eventually receive an upgrade to what people referred to as RuneScape Classic, and then after that, RuneScape 2, which is what OSRS is loosely based around. They would eventually have an HD texture pack, so they could more accurately simulate breast physics, and then finally RuneScape 3, which is running alongside OSRS as we speak, and is apparently horrendously infested with microtransactions. Shoutouts to modern game design, by the way. You know, that's just really disgusting, because you know that money could actually go to a good cause, like feeding the homeless, providing shoes for Lithuanians, purchasing a membership on my channel. Anyways, history lesson over. In the last video, we made a cake, we milked some one-teat cows, we exorcised a ghost, rescued a fiancé, and slayed a vampire, all while paying my taxes. I head on over to the west to the White Knight's castle, where I'm offered a quest to defend females on the internet in hopes that they'll have sex with me. But apparently I don't yet meet the credentials, because out of the 5 quests available, I can only start 1. All of the others say I don't meet the requirements, as I first need to be a moderator of a subreddit. It's at this point that I'm starting to second guess my ability to complete every quest without a guide if I can't even figure out how to start them. But luckily, it's not a total loss, because I can at least still squeeze in an ad for the premier backend web development learning platform, Boot.dev. Much like life itself, learning backend development can sometimes feel like an endless grind, and as much as the world first 300 fisherman, world first blood cell admiral, rank 14 monotonous Adonis loves that, what if I were to tell you that there's a way to make it as fun and as engaging as a video game? With Boot.dev, you can learn backend web development in Python and Go while feeling like you're leveling up in an RPG. It's designed to keep you engaged using learning techniques from game design. You're not just reading theory, you're actually writing code from day one and solving challenges, shipping projects, plus it's self-paced so you can learn when it suits you. As you complete challenges, you learn XP, levels, achievements, all while preparing for a real-world career in back-end development. And if you ever get stuck, their AI guide, Boots, is there to walk you through any tricky concepts and asking you questions to deepen your understanding. And there's also an active Discord community there as well to help you out. Boot.dev really focuses on fundamentals and helping you build solid skills for your tech career. And according to Stack Overflow, back-end developers in the US earn a median salary of over $100,000 a year. So you can pay as much money as you want to not play your favorite game. If you're interested, click the link in the description and use my code to get 25% off your first month or even your entire first year if you go for the annual plan. Okay, so here's a squire who lost his knight's sword. It was a family heirloom passed down by generations and made by a group of dwarves. I offer to try to track it down and ask them to make another, and I'm sent to someone named Reldo in Varrock for more information. The quest warns me that I don't have the proper skill level for it yet. Gee, you know what would be helpful? Telling me what skill level I need to level so I have the information to level it. Well, I got a few quests in Varrock anyways at this point, so I figured that's probably a good place to head to. Oh, and there's another quest on the way. Oh, that feeling of entering a big city filled with players after a long adventure sesh. You know what it reminds me of, you guys? It kind of reminds me of World of Warcraft. I think that the first time seeing a major city in any MMO is a pretty memorable moment. I remember the first time for me in World of Warcraft, it was Ironforge, and it was really interesting and cool to see all of the high levels and all of the people trading and interacting with each other. I thought to myself, wow, everyone here is a complete loser. I felt very much at home. Coming from Star Wars Galaxies, my first question was how to get the glowy weapons because they looked like lightsabers. And also advice on how to kiss your sister without it being weird. It was a pretty cool moment, and I'm sure for a lot of you out there, Varrock was that city for you. It really hasn't hit me personally, but I think that's because I've just played the genre for so long it's not really that impressive anymore. And I'm also severely depressed. I will say that this game doesn't seem to be very social so far, which is good because the worst part of online multiplayer games are, of course, other players. This is partly my fault though, because the only message I've ever sent was gibberish because I was trying to figure out the keybinds. You ever get a whisper from someone that's cut off with a bunch of numbers and WASD? I love that crap. It means that while they were talking to you, they were ambushed by a monster. I run into a woman who asks me to help her find her pussy. I eagerly oblige until I realize that she already has kids, at which point I ghost her. I've been complaining about the lack of information that you get with the quests, but luckily there is a log that you can check up on that summarizes what information you have gathered so far, including the requirements. It's how the old school RPGs did it. If you really want to go old school, you would bust out the pen and paper, but this style reminds me of Morrowind, where to figure out the quests, you would ask around town, and your character would log it. Obviously, as time has gone on, the industry has realized that gamers today are as soft as my grandpa's pecker when Bob Barker was replaced in The Price is Right, so every objective is accompanied by waypoints and giant arrows directing you on where to go. A good comparison today is Skyrim versus Morrowind. It's really just sad how babied and impatient people are today. It's like they lack any sense of investigation or direction. Shit, I'm lost. Okay, this place is very large. I eventually run into a fortune teller. I wonder if she can predict that after a multi-million-dollar AAA video game developer betrays its player base by releasing paid level boosts after explicitly stating that they wouldn't, if they would also release the ability to purchase currency and, by extension, all forms of character progression. Told you so, by the way. So she says that she sees me wielding this legendary sword in the face of an evil demon named Delrith, who was thwarted 150 years ago by a knight named Wally, which is probably the most unheroic sounding name I've ever heard. Sorry to all of the Wallys out there. That your parents named you Wally. Evil mages are summoning him once more to destroy the city, just like how Alex Jones said.
I don't like putting chemicals in the water that make the friggin' demons gay.
She says that I'm destined to stop them, but in order to do so, I must first find a magic sword called Silverlight, and also bulk up on some super male vitality so I can become more red. I also need to recite the spell, Alright, let me just go ahead and memorize this real quick. Apparently this sword as well has been passed down to a knight named Sir Prison who resides in the city's castle. There's a lot of passing down of heirlooms to younger generations in this game. The only thing that I got passed down was unresolved childhood trauma. Right outside, I encounter a man named Romeo who is looking for a woman named Juliet. He has trouble mixing up words. What kind of idiot would do that? The milk you get from eggs in a farm across the river. He asks me to find her in Western Varrock in the Romeo and Juliet quest. Being a professional virgin, the quest to find love intimidates me more than the one to kill a city-destroying apocalyptic demon, so I decide to work on the latter first. But before getting all tangled up in that, we have that delivery quest from the Wizard's Tower if you remember. So we find a man named Aubrey in the magic shop and deliver that talisman. Wait, from who?
Excuse me, shouldn't that be whom? Okay, you.
I deliver him the package, and he doesn't thank me nor tip, which gives me a surprisingly authentic DoorDasher experience. I search for Sir Prison in the castle, and I tell him that I need Silverlight in order to defeat Delrith, and he acquiesces, but there's a problem. The sword is held within a chest that's locked with 3 keys spread throughout the world. Well, actually, they're not spread throughout the world. It's a rather small area, in fact, but it just sort of feels like that because you move as slow as my grandparents have sex in this game. Just thought I'd bring that up in case I haven't already. 1 key was held by him until he dropped it down the drain in the castle kitchen. Another is held by the Captain Guard Roven, and the last by a wizard named Trailborn who resides in the Wizard Tower, which isn't bad because I need to head back there anyway to make another delivery that I won't get tipped for. I find Reldo in the library, who, if you remember, we needed to ask about the dwarves to make another sword for the squire, and he says that they were wiped out by the barbarian invasion. They invaded their land and began colonizing it, and brutally murdered them with kindness by giving them free blankets that were infested with smallpox. He says that only a few exist and that you can find them by offering them red berry pie. He specifically guides me to a couple in a place called Asgarnia on the southern peninsula. And he also offers the Shield of Arav quest, where I have to find a special book within the library. I check every shelf until I pan my camera over. It's the one with the blue book. There was once a hero named Arav, whose shield was stolen from the Varrock Museum by a group called the Phoenix Gang. The king offered a bounty for its return, but to no avail, with the gang using its power to eventually become a large crime syndicate. Although Reldo doesn't know where the gang is, he sends me to someone who might, a fur trader named Barak in the marketplace. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good at this point. I have quite the selection of quests at my disposal, and I first decide to pursue the Demon Slayer because it seems to be the most interesting. Captain Roven just hands over the key after some convincing, and I head to the kitchen for the other. I can see it in the drain outside, so I fill a bucket with water and I pour it down to dislodge it, and then send it down into the sewers, the entrance to which can be found a ways to the south, and that's 2 keys down. Heading to the Wizard Tower, I first turn in the research notes to Cedrador, which unlocks the Essence Mine, and he tells me to just let him know whenever I need access, and he gives me some information on how to actually craft runes by taking the Air Talisman and some essence to an altar south of Falador. Talking to Trailborn, he tells me that he has his key in a wardrobe that can only be summoned by using 25 sets of bones of people I've murdered, which is pretty metal. And highly annoying because I still haven't figured out how to increase my bag space. Alright, I know you're just doing your own thing, but I'm gonna need to take your life to make 1/25th progress for a quest that I'm trying to 4 damage? Okay, so seeing as how I don't have the heals nor patience for this, I instead kill wimpy goblins for the remaining 24, making a few trips in the process. And during this I find a teleporter to Xanarkand, which was the area that those adventurers were trying to find, but it says I need permission before I can use it. But I eventually get the key, and I'm ready for some demon slaying. I take them to prison, he gives me Silverlight, and I talk to the gypsy who sends me to the summoning circle south of the city. This is the most intricate quest I've encountered thus far, climaxing with an epic duel with this world-shattering demonic entity, and I one-shot him. Oh, hang on, let me consult my memory for the proper incantation. Yeah, get banished, idiot. Alright, what's my reward? Hey, the F? I didn't get a chance to read it. So I get something from all of that, I suppose. I decide to go find Juliet, who gives me a letter to give to Romeo. Apparently her father opposes his affection and is holding her prisoner, essentially. So we have to figure out a way to sneak her out of there. The plan is to make something called a cadaver potion, which temporarily feigns death to make the father believe that his daughter has died. And then when they take her body to the crypt, Romeo will whisk her away. In order to craft the potion, I'm tasked to find cadaver berries, which can be found just southeast of the city. So I get the berries, make the potion, give it to Juliet. She feigns death. We find her body in the crypt, and she's actually dead. And Romeo hooked up with her cousin. Whatever. It's still a better love story than the Titanic. Imagine marrying someone and raising children together over the span of a lifetime, and the love of your life's final thoughts aren't of you, but instead some homeless French artist who boinked her on a boat 50 years ago. Beautiful gameplay. So we casually brush off our murder of an innocent woman, and we return to the square to find commotion about an envoy coming from the kingdom of Varlamore. Wait, is that what I think it is? There's a problem though. There's a guard skulking about in a suspicious manner, and we have to follow... Oh, son of a... Yeah, it's one of those. It's GTA 3 style where you have to follow him, but not too close as to arouse suspicion. We follow him to his hideout where we discover that they stole some guard uniforms and are planning on blending in order to get close to the priest to assassinate him. So we have to mark the ones that are acting suspiciously. You see this doucher has his hands on his hips. Can't have that. This other one isn't wearing a helmet, which is just plain unsafe. This guy's using a mace, whereas all of the other guards have swords, so we mark him for being a casual scrub who doesn't follow the meta. And this one is posing all cool-like against the wall, which makes me insecure, so this is all unacceptable behavior, and we round them up for some good old-fashioned torture to uncover their plot. As a reward, we get access to another area named Varlamore, which is good, but there's still a lot to do here, it seems, so I instead opt to hunt down the quests here first. There's this one where this king hasn't heard from a guard post for a while, and I go check on it. Clearly there's some trickery afoot. They tell me to kill the dog, but I can't attack it. What the F? I find Gertrude's kids, who say that the cat is in the sawmill, which he is, but the stupid bastard won't let me pick him up. What the F? And there's also this giant crack that needs investigating, but I can't enter it. What the F? I'm stumped on multiple fronts. But luckily, while looking for some guidance, I find this quest suggestion tool near the minimap that actually suggests quests for me to do, and it does show what skills I need in order to complete them, which is amazing. There's this other one called Porcine of Interest, where this woman has been ambushed by a giant monster, and I'm tasked with slaying it. I found where she got jumped, and I followed the vegetable trail to a hole in the ground, but you can't just enter it. No, you see, that would be too simple. So I figure you need rope in order to go down, and conveniently there's a rope vendor right nearby in Draenor. This itself is kind of interesting, I thought. There's so many shops that specialize in just one thing. There's one for rope, pottery, helmets. There's one for Amy Winehouse. But I get the rope and I head into the cave. I'm ambushed by Jesus Christ from the 2024 Summer Olympics. Much like most of my encounters with women, upon seeing me, she immediately reflexively vomits directly in my face. I am rescued by another woman who says that in order to counter it, I need a special pair of goggles. Apparently they do something after all. So I return and what the F? I can't attack them. Okay, so there's something I'm not getting here. Looking through the settings, it turns out that there's this noob protection for high-level mobs where they won't even let you click on them if you're too low level. So naturally, because I am a professional, I turn that crap off. And I figure that this is also a good time to look through all of the settings to see if I'm screwing myself over in other ways. Most importantly, I scale up the interface so I no longer have to strain my old man eyes. And aside from that, I also find another option to highlight starting points for quests, which sounds like it may solve my struggles in, starting them. Although I'm sure I'll still complain about it. But back to the quest. The lady says he's weak to stabbing attacks, which is interesting. At this point, I thought the stances just determined what type of XP you get. But as it turns out, I guess certain enemies are weaker to different types of attacks, which is pretty cool, actually. So it's a rather long and drawn-out battle, but I do manage to defeat him, and I get 5,000 gold as a reward, which is pretty crazy. I also unlock Slayer quests, which seem to be some sort of bounty system where you kill a certain amount of enemies and you return for a currency that you can spend on a variety of things. That's pretty cool. I really like it when these MMOs have all of these different systems. One of the best things about the genre, I think, is the variety it offers, and seemingly every day you're unlocking this new form of character progression to explore. I instead opt to grind goblins for a few hours to level my combat. I eventually get bored, and I look for more quests, and I find what is quite possibly the most annoying quest I've ever encountered in a video game, and it shows just how much time you can save if you have prior knowledge and you know what to bring with you. There are these goblins who are fighting over what gang colors they should wear, green or red, and they task me with returning them in orange-colored armor to see how it looks. The armor itself isn't bad because they say you can find it around the camp, which I do, but to color it orange I need to visit a witch in Draenor across the other side of the effing continent. So I slowly trudge my way there, and she only makes red, yellow, and blue dye, but that's no problem. It may not seem like it, but I did graduate kindergarten, and using the color wheel, red and yellow of course make orange, and we can just ignore the blue dye. Right. To make red dye, she says I need the berries from the Port Sarim General Store, and to make yellow dye, I need garlic, which is a little more tricky. You see, Gielinor is a communist world in the sense where the farmers don't really mind sharing their food with strangers, and it's not a communist world in the sense that the working class doesn't seem to be collectively starving to death. So I scour the farms and I eventually find some garlic, return it to the witch, make the dyes, paint the armor, and go all the way back to the goblins on the other side of the world. And keep in mind, I'm moving as slow as my grandparents have sex all the while I'm doing this. And they want the blue armor now. So I walk all the effing way back to the witch to make the blue dye, but you need these leaves from a guy in Falador. Walk all the way there, get the leaves, back to the witch, dye the stupid armor, and finally back to the goblins. Oh my effing G. Okay, so I really like this game, but this made me want to get a colonoscopy, which is actually a compliment because I also really happen to enjoy colonoscopies. I had one just last year, and when they were putting me under, I told the team, "Everyone, let's get to the bottom of this." They all laughed and then applauded, and then proceeded to insert a lubricated tube up my rectum. It was truly the moment where I felt like I had peaked in life, and unfortunately it's been all downhill from there. But all in all, much like this game, it was a 10 of 10 experience. Really one to tell the grandkids about, and also a YouTube audience without their consent.
Farewell for now, mortals. We hope you enjoyed today's video. See you again soon.